Hi, this is Tracy with Color Me This with episode 33. I'm going to work on the horse today. I just want to share some observations. I had said in 32 that I was going to be combining the Evazar and Arrtx purples. I also pulled both whites, and I want to share a difference in the whites that I noticed. So I'm going to take this away. Hub last night was watching some of my videos. He hadn't watched them in a very long time, and he does not like when I talk at the very beginning and you just see the wood grain of whatever I'm doing. He says you need to move your hands, because I know a lot of people use their hands, which I don't. And so I'm not sure if I will ever get to that, but I will try to make sure that I put something on the table at the beginning for us to look at, even if all I'm doing is doing an intro. So the difference in these two whites is enough for me to do a demo because they each have their own purpose. I had mentioned doing the flowers on demoing the flowers, talking about using the Evazar white to sort of pull the color, like lengthening the color. And that is indeed what this does. It's like it does the blending part. If you have mixed two different colors, you're going to get them to intermingle better, but you will also get a pulling action. So I have a very small sample here where I'm blending and I see the color going out past where I had colored, and then with the Arrtx white there's a tiny bit of it, but not anywhere near as much movement. So let's do a quick sample of our own. I'm going to grab a dark color because it will show it easier. So the top one here is going to be, this is just very light. I'm hardly using any pressure at all. So that one will be my Evazar example, and this will be the Arrtx. And the goal will be to see how much I can make this color move. So on the top, this is again the, I'm left-handed, so this is the white, and look how short it's getting. I don't know how long it's going to last. So I'm going to go ahead and start smooshing, and I am purposefully pulling to the left, and you can see we get a lovely stretch of color. Okay, so now I'm going to take the Arrtx, I'm going to start so you can see already that it doesn't pull. It's not as creamy, it's more dry, and it doesn't even push the color into the tooth of the paper as well. And I'm pushing really hard. I didn't have to push hard at all to get the Evazar. So the Evazar white, we did the test in 32 as well, and the Evazar white was a pretty fantastic color on the black, and it also is very much creamier. So that's the difference that you get between the two. I don't know if I have a regular pencil. I do. So this again is the E, and that's the A, and this is the E and the A. So I really enjoy both whites though, because if I'm not wanting as much of a pulling like the taffy, the mixing of the colors, I'm just wanting to burnish, I would go to the Arrtx for safety, to make sure that I don't have any accidental color stretching into an area that I perhaps do want either lighter or white. And then of course the Evazar I do want it to stretch. I will use it purposefully to stretch, and I'm even wondering with my other whites, I might do some testing and see if the ability to pull the color in a direction is something, which ones of my whites can do that. So I'm curious, and I will be doing that at some point in the future. So I want to work on the tail. I'm going to save the reveal. We will probably do the live tail together, and I will also share my mock-up. So I have 3 copies of this horse right now. I had shared with you the black version. I shared with you this one with the grayscale, and then my actual coloring is on the grayscale. But the black one I have done a bunch of different tests on, and I'll share that at the end as well. So my strategy with this tail, and I'm going to zoom in way close. And let's see if I can do this from this far away. Okay, so starting with 51, which is my second darkest color, I think, and then the darkest color, remember, that I introduced was this cobalt violet Arrtx, which has been lovely for getting really deep, rich color for the contrast. So I'm just going to be going through and lining the leaves, and then overlapping a little bit to get more color in the center. I am also going to line the edges for my shadows. And again, I'm not a big talker when I color, I focus. So I really worked hard on this, wanting to get this finished. I am definitely I'm slow, but I do sometimes leave a project, like if I'm not feeling inspired with a project, I can let it go. I can have it sit to the side, put it away. But if I get on a roll, I have a very hard time doing anything else. It will like be on my mind. It will bug me, buzzing around in my head that I must work on this particular project until it is complete. So that's what happened, and last night I worked on it till I got to this point so I could share with you the progress, and my goal was to get it finished enough so that we could finish it together. I also am curious if I've noticed that how can you talk so long about colored pencils? Because my videos are quite long. So let me know what you think. Am I boring you to tears? Should I stay more focused and do smaller videos or shorter videos that like cover less material? Let me know. I also did do what I said I was going to do. I put up a poll asking for which pencil I should work on next, the Color 180 Black Barrels or the Marie 168s. So if you have an opinion on that, pop over to the community, I think it's called community, where I have put up the poll, the community tab. I've seen a few responses already. Okay, so now I want to introduce one lighter color. I do want these pencils put down a lot of pigment. I know not everybody thinks that, but for me, light single layer is all I need to do to get the color you're seeing here. And then I want to start, I'll have a shadow line there. Okay, my lighter color, this is the lightest, 47. And I should, again, put it so you can see it, not upside down. And I'm going to add a little bit of a gradient here. So in my mind, the way I envision these leaves, I don't want to use a white to stretch the color. I'm actually coloring with a lighter color, and I do want to leave the edges white, or almost white. So I'm thinking I'm going to use the Arrtx white. To burnish this. I think I will then, at the very end, I'm going to go in with the dark, which is, again, the Arrtx Cobalt Violet. And of course, as these leaves get smaller and smaller and toward going under the wing here, I'm just going to let there be a solid color. Alright, so that's mostly done. And I'm going to grab the white, and I want to smooth out and I'm not wanting a bunch of movement. There, see, I just want to get rid of the tooth of the paper. Have my glassine next to me. When I show you the original, I will share some more thoughts about the Evazar. Alright, so this is what the Arrtx does as a burnishing tool. Just smooshing the the pigment where it is down into the paper, but no stretching, no movement. And if that is what you're after, this pencil does a great job of that. Okay, so that's the Arrtx. Before I switch gears, I see an area. So right here, I see a little bump and some white, and I want to show you what happens when you use the Evazar. First off, it adds a lot more white, a white coating, which I also wasn't after, and it kind of smooshes and smears everything. So that is why I was not wanting in this case to use this particular pencil, because I like the way, so this is the Evazar, and so it got rid of that bump, but it added a bunch more white. And now I would have to, if I had used it for the whole tail, I would be having to come back in with more color. And because the rest of this has a nice look, I don't have to come back if I don't want to and add more color. I'm looking for the dark. And then because I lost the dark shadow here, I would have to come back in and add the shadow back in. And then I'd have to go back and forth until I got the color that I was after. So that's why I'm not using the heavier white that we saw on the black. I'm okay with the Arrtx being used purely for burnishing. Just coming in and pushing the pigment down into the paper. And like I said, I'm very slow. Like, I look at every little part of the picture at a time. I really like these very intricate images to work with. Okay, so then I mentioned I have a sharpened cobalt violet, and I think this is where it will really make the tail pop when I add the dark, the super dark. So that is the effect I am after. I think just by not using the Evazar white, by shifting to the Arrtx white on the tail, it's going to save me some time, because I won't have to work at getting the color back after I have the white go down, because it goes down really heavy. And then right in here, I want all these little leaf ends and the details to show. And this, if I can get, there we go. And there is the tail. Now I'm going to zoom out. And I want to pop over. I will share with you the live project and then talk a bit about it for a minute, and then I'll quickly get this tail done. So that is my goal. And then there's this end of the tail here, just like a petal, a flower petal fades as it gets to the end. I will just fade this out. I will just do the lightest purple on this tail. All right, so now I'm going to share with you, before I share the original, here is my work mocking up each of these sections. The first section that I did, to my mind, is too dark. So on the original, you will see that this first section is a little different. The second section I felt was too faded in the middle, so I did a little different treatment with that. I liked the third segment, I liked really well. This fourth section I liked really well, though not this top, so I changed the top a little bit. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Each section I took as an individual, and I wanted to pair it to the colorings on either side and make sure that it wasn't too dark. So if it was next to a dark segment, I did some light, and if it was next to a light segment, I did dark, so that there was contrast. So this section I did a little differently. The next segments I didn't really finish. I see some tooth of the paper. I was just kind of roughing it in, and this one looks mostly that way. This one I did this little triangle thing different. I didn't even do, this is like I did a seashell effect, the curling of the the shell on that part and this part, and then this got done a little differently. And then here's my mock-up of the tail, and then I didn't even finish. I didn't want to use up all of my pigment for the shadow insides of the other side of the wings. So that is how I drafted up my work. That's when at about, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock, I went, oh boy, if I go to bed now, I won't remember my thoughts on each one of these 10 different segments of wings. So I went ahead and powered through it, and this is where we're at right now. So I was much more careful with my lights and darks. I didn't have this is the grayscale, so I didn't have the black separations, so what I was able to add in some of my own very thin lines of color along the gray lines. In this case, the third one in, you'll see I just didn't do anything with those lines. Where over here I told you I kind of went with the seashell to do a curved look, and then that one is seashell-esque. Here is where I said I did a completely different scalloped treatment, which I did. I went darker. There's very, very thin cobalt violet around each one of the bottoms of those white circles. Here's where I did a different treatment. Not having it so faded looking, I wanted it to look a little more etched, so to speak. So I'm pretty happy with that. I also then used all of my pigment that I said I was saving for the back side of the wing, doing the ombre effect. I'm not sure which is my favorite. I like how this section of wing came out, and I like how this section of wing came out. So the other thing I noticed, I have my glassine here. I had to be so careful. I have my brush. I would get some dark little remnants, and I mostly worked with my hand in this position with the wings up on my clipboard, and I noticed here when I moved my glassine off of the page that if you can't see them, there's these little tiny speckles of black. Those are actually pigments that got away, and I didn't know it. And then there's one dot right here that really annoys me, and I've got a craft knife, and I tried to flick off what was embedded there. I mean, it looks purple to me, and there's even a couple more little flicks. Then at the very top here, which I'm not too worried, I don't know what that is. It might even have been on the paper. And here's the clipboard marks. So if I'm going to put this in something like a frame, I'm going to have to make sure that those are covered. I have a mat cutter, and I can cut mats. So this particular picture is all done with non-light fast pencils, which means I will be spraying a fixative on it before I put it in something. Or if it goes, even if it goes into a notebook, I think I am going to be putting a fixative on it, because I am, even without testing Arrtx or Evazar, I'm pretty sure they're not light fast. This is also officially, to my knowledge, the first wax picture I've done, and I was explaining to my husband that there could end up being a white filmy substance on this over time because of waxbloom, which, because I've always had oil-based pencils, I have not really seen. So we'll see what happens. After I do the tail, then I'm going to come in, not with you guys. I will go through and do all of the treatment to the white areas I talked about. The little dots are going to be a shimmery, clear shimmer Gellyroll. And that's my plan. So let's get started on this tail, because that's my last piece. I'm so excited. And I'm going to put the glassine here to protect it. I've got my 3 colors. I'm going to start with my 51. I'm going to then blend out with 47, and then at the very end, probably after I do my white, which will be the Arrtx white, I will go into the darkest corners with cobalt violet. And without further ado, let's get going. So yeah, these pencils, both of them, I paid $39.99. I think that the Evazar is still on sale for even less than that. Like, it's I think $39.20 is what the price comes out right now. I noticed it last night. What I do to keep track of prices is I have a wish list, or a special list that is called art, because I keep other art supplies, and I keep all the items that I am curious about the pricing on that list. And I will tell you, if you buy the item, it disappears from the list, and if you're curious to keep track of pricing down the road, you have to put it back in. So now on that wish list where I am still tracking prices on items, you know, like if I want to snag a good deal on the Evazar at some point, I'll use that list to keep track of prices and jump on the purchase when the price is right. So it knows, for instance, I think I have 2 different sets of the Amazon Basics and a couple sets of the Brute Funer squares, and it knows in that list how many I own. And it says has 2, needs 1, because I've added it back in after the second purchase that I made. So that is how I keep track of these things. Oh, and I should zoom you in, shouldn't I? There. Sorry about that. So even though you'll see me adding shadow lines, I'm going to be going back in with the darker. And I am using very light pressure. I almost want to sharpen this, but I'm trying not to. Every time I sharpen these, they get shorter and shorter. So I don't know how you guys feel, but I love when I complete tasks. I am a list maker, and will even write the silliest little thing for the day that I need to do. And I love putting a line through it or a checkbox next to it, something to notify the world that I have finished this task. And I am always forever over allocating myself, that I wake up and I am inspired to do all of these things, and then I'll get like half of them done. That is pretty much the story of my life, since I am a very slow crafter, slow at everything I do. Okay, so the first pass, this one I want to have a little more depth. It's the fattest leaf. This one's a long skinny leaf, so I don't need as much. Okay, I am going to get 47 next, which is the lightest purple. I actually last night ended up, for the most part, for doing all of this, I think I only used lightest, darkest, and one of the in-between colors, and I did from section to section. I kind of varied the in-between color to try to give more interest and variation in the colors. I didn't want them to be all matchy-matchy because a couple of the middle colors are more of a pinky purple, and then a couple of them are bluey purple. So you will see in the wings that there are some different segments that have a bluer tone and different sections that have the more purpley tone. Okay, so now I am grabbing 47 and I'm going to do some blending. This pencil as well, I'm trying not to sharpen anymore. Both of them feel to me like they could be sharper. I'm still using very light pressure. Very soft. That's looking pretty good. Another big leaf. I have to be so careful of making sure I don't accidentally do all of this work was all sharp, very sharp pencils, trying to make sure I did not go off into a different section on accident. Okay, so that is looking pretty good. I might just come over here to the tail end of the tail and get some light going. Next, I have to decide if I want to burnish or do I want to try adding in some dark, knowing I might have to go back in again after burnishing and do yet one more. I think I'm going to do that because I want you guys to see the intensity. I am moving. So that was a little tiny piece of pigment there that I brushed away. Trying to be very careful at this point. What I did right there was I rotated my barrel until I felt a nice sharp edge. going to get really busy up here. I have been wanting to make a good version of this winged horse, Pegasus, for a very long time. I think it's back one of my first videos was sharing a work in progress of this, and it just looked terrible. I was using a 48 set, and it was during the holidays, so I was thinking, you know, Christmassy bright colors, lots of colors, and it just came out terrible. I don't even know where the actual original is right now. That's how disgusted I was with it. Alright, I think I just need to do some shadows up here. Okay, so now the goal is to get that, all of that tooth gone. And it might take a couple passes. We'll see. Now I'm actually using, I would say, medium to heavy pressure. It's looking pretty good. Of course, I am looking at it upside down. It might all change when I look at it right side up. So I think I could go back through and just darken up those dark shadowy bits one last time with a nice sharp line of the cobalt violet. I have to turn it around and look at it. Okay, I'm going to move back. Let's see the whole thing in its entirety. So now, knowing the way I am, I will go back through. Now I didn't put white here so I see the tooth of this tail. I'll probably darken the tail right up under the belly because it's coming across from the other side, and the sun again is over here. So there is going to be shadowed tail. I see all those little tiny, I don't know if you saw them, but I am very careful now. Just smoothing some of the tail bits out. See, now if I would have used the other white would have turned this into like a white, like creamy layer, and these little veins would have smeared and possibly disappeared, which that's why having a variety of whites is important, and knowing what they do, how they work. I am very pleased with both whites for the purposes that I have used them for. And then I even see some white, a little bit. Alrighty, I'm gonna say 95% done. Whew, so that is the end of episode 33. I can't think of anything else specifically that I wanted to share. I talked about each different segment. My favorite segment is still the shell, this one here. I think the tail is great. I'll probably do a little more smooshing and working it till it's exactly to my satisfaction. Probably all teeny tiny things that nobody would know, and then I'm going to go in and do all the little white flower bits with that jelly roll. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think of my monochromatic Pegasus? Don't forget, this is Ruby Charm Colors. In fact, I looked it up to make sure that it's on Facebook. It is Ruby Charm Colors Space Community. So Ruby Charm Colors is all one word. So you'll see that she signs her name Ruby Charm. So, wonderful artist, love her stuff, and she has a lot of freebies up there if you are interested in this one as well as others like this. So, thanks again for watching. See you on the next one.